another episode of Mental Odyssey. Today's episode is episode 5 of this new season, and this interview is with my dear grandma on my dad's side. I had such a fun time talking with her, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear it. So let's jump right on in. Well, hi, Grandma.
Hello, my Sarah. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm pretty good. I've been sick for 12 days, but I'm getting on top of it. So.
Well, I'm glad that you're getting to the other side of it, because that's no fun at all. No, it's hard to focus on anything when you're sick.
It is. It is.
You don't feel like a human.
I hope so.
Right.
I'm heading in that direction, I hope.
Good. I'm glad. So I have a few questions that I'm going to ask you. The first one is, how would you recommend to handle rejection?
Oh, my goodness, Sarah. It depends on the kind of rejection, I guess. There's rejection in all phases of life. There's rejection in relationships.
Right.
There's rejection in job opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I'm trying to think. Relationships, I'll go there first. There are usually not two people that are exactly on the same page at the same time.
Right.
There's usually one that is a little more involved than the other. That can change. I mean, if you feel like you're being rejected, you kind of back off. And sometimes when you back off, the other person thinks, oh, well, that, I can't take that. So relationships change.
Mm-hmm.
Rejection in jobs. That's difficult because you feel like you are the best person for that opportunity.
Right.
And, but you don't know what else is out there, what the person just ahead of you has been saying or doing or whatever.
Exactly.
And you can't take it personally.
Oh,
rejection is part of life.
It's so hard, Grandma.
I know it is, honey. I know it is. I can remember years ago, I didn't apply for a lot of jobs. I just kind of went along with the flow. But I can remember applying for a job that I thought, oh, I'd be pretty good for that. And it was a job that a friend of mine recommended. And I thought I did pretty well during the interview, but it didn't turn out. And you question yourself.
Right.
Forever saying, well, what didn't I do right? Or what did I do wrong?
Right.
But it isn't anything you've done right or wrong. It's just that someone else had a better rapport, whoever was doing the interview.
Right.
Or they may have been a little more experienced than you were or whatever.
Right.
So you can't take it personally. You just have to say, it was a learning experience. I'll go on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a process in getting to that place. Getting to the place of like, okay, I can accept. Like, it took me a while to think of this in a different light. But if I were hiring somebody, right, and like, let's say that the two people are like me, who just got married, is in the process of like starting a life, quote unquote.
Right.
And then the other candidate is like, has had experience before, but like took some time off to be a mom or, whatever it was. And now she's just like looking to be back at work. Like, her kids have left the place. Like, she's just wanting to focus on her career now. Like, chances are, and like, let's say that she also went to college. Like, those two things right there, I would hire that person. I would not hire me. as much as I liked my personality or something like that. Like,
yeah.
I would choose the person that like is probably going to be with me for 20 years. You know, like they're going to be with me until retirement versus
That's
like
right.
the person that might be having a kid and quitting soon or like moving away. You know, like when you see somebody that's in my shoes in my time of my life, you look at it and you're like, they're going to be changing a lot soon. Like a
That's
lot of
true.
life is going to change for you.
That's true. But then on the other hand, Sarah, you have to look at it this way that, you're looking for people with experience, people that are going to be sticking with you for a long time. I can see it from the employer's point of view
Mm-hmm.
and also the person that's looking for the job.
Right.
How do young people get experience if no one gives them the chance?
Right. Right. When
You
every
know?
place wants 2 years of experience, which one of you
Right.
is going to, take it for the team and give me the
That's right.
experience?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But then there are those people too. I mean, it depends on the personalities, and you never know. Some people can interview beautifully, but I personally, I was a person that if I felt a responsibility, there are some people that don't feel that responsibility.
Right.
You've got to. Just because you're older doesn't mean that you're going to be more professional.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is. At my age, I can say, of course, I'm old. I'm too old to be looking for a job now.
Right.
But at age, unless you're sick or whatever, if you're looking for a job, you want to be there and you're dependable.
Mm-hmm.
Some young people, not all, but I think there are some people out there now that they feel like something is owed to them. They don't want
Right.
to work for it. They don't,
Right.
so. But anyway, it's a catch-22.
It is. It really is. It's hard to It's hard. I'm glad that I've gained a different perspective on it now. I'm like a
Oh,
bit removed from it and I'm not like taking it as personally as I did when I
personally, well,
when
you
I
can't
first
take it
talked.
personally, honey, because
Right.
I mean, you somebody might have had a bee sting them on the fanny during the interview, and you know, don't take it personally. It was
Right.
just something that, that didn't feel good, so I'm not going to go with this.
Exactly. 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 Just
Uh,
focus on it. Don't think too much about it. Don't make it a big deal.
right, right. Just continue to think, I'm worth something. I'm going to go out and do the next one.
Right. Someone will see it in me.
That's right. That's
I love
right.
that. That's wonderful feedback. Thank you, Grandma. So the next question that I have is, what is the antidote to loneliness?
Mm, I don't know if there is an antidote to loneliness, Sarah. Um, the first thing is you've got to get outside of yourself.
Mm,
Loneliness is something that sometimes can be put upon you for no reason of your own, but you've got to put yourself out there. You can't always expect someone to come to you.
right.
Um,
Right.
it's a two-way street, and initially, for instance, if you've lost a spouse or you've been rejected by a lover or something,
Right.
you you can't expect everyone to come to you, but by the same token, other people can't expect you to say, "Oh well, it's her problem. She knows we're here, or he knows that we're here. All he
Right.
has to do is reach out." It's a two-way street,
It is.
and but if you're really lonely, Sarah, the only person that can do anything about it is you. And if you're in a situation where you can participate in activities, do it. If you're in an isolated situation where there isn't that opportunity to grasp what is near, you have to kind of, maybe with new technology, go online or reach out to a family member,
Mhm.
and let them know how you're feeling.
Right.
Let them know that you need some closeness. You need someone to reach out a hand to you.
Right.
Some people don't feel comfortable doing it, saying, "Oh, well, I know they're lonely. They just lost. I can't pull them out." But, you know, do it anyway. Try. If you know
Right.
someone that's lonely, try to reach out to them. If they're not ready for it, back off a little bit. But the person that is alone, don't be afraid to reach out to, first of all, the closest people to you,
Mhm.
your family, a close friend, or whatever. And then if you're in a community where they've got things, don't hesitate to put yourself out there and say, "Hey, I thought I'd try this. There's a card group that maybe I could join, or there's a little exercise class. I've never done that before, but maybe I ought to try it." You
Right.
know,
No,
you meet
absolutely.
people. If you sit in the house alone all the time, you're not going to meet people.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of like, well, I'm feeling lonely, but I know that everybody else is pretty busy and I don't
Yeah.
want to like impose
Impose.
or
Impose.
yeah.
Yeah. Impose sometimes.
Right. Give yourself the permission to impose.
Mhm.
Sometimes we all need to impose on someone else because you
Right.
can't expect somebody else to know what you're going through. Like
That's right.
the only person who knows what you're going through is you. And
Is
even
you.
even with like the closest people to you, you're like, "Oh, well they should have noticed that."
Yeah.
You know?
And you can't expect that from other people,
No.
Sarah. You've got to
No.
let people know.
Yeah.
Vocabulary and social relationships are very, very important. If you don't
Right.
speak up, nobody knows.
Right. And it also I feel like it's like a self-feeding loop. Like if you get into this routine of just getting yourself more lonely,
Mhm.
retracting more from people because you don't want to impose, then it's almost like telling yourself like you're not worthy of support in a way.
Well, and Sarah, you can't sit back and feel sorry for yourself.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, that's very easy to do because we do feel sorry for ourselves. But if you become the mourner, if you become the person that,
Woe is
they
me.
need to reach out for me. I can't, you
Right.
know, you can't always expect other people to come to your rescue. You've got to
Right.
rescue yourself
You do.
occasionally.
You do. And if that includes other people, reaching out, then just like give yourself that. Be the person
Right,
that's going to stand up for yourself.
right,
I love
right.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
honey.
Yeah. I think loneliness can be a choice.
It loneliness is a terrible thing, Sarah. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
And uh, companionship is necessary. Whether it's a once in a while companionship, a friend that you can reach out to, someone to do something with,
Right.
you know. But it's a two-way street. You can't be selfish and expect everybody to come to you. You've got to put
Exactly.
yourself out there a little bit.
Exactly. I love that. Thank you for that, Grandma.
Hmm.
So, my next question is how did you pick a career?
How did I pick a career?
Yeah.
I don't know, Sarah. I I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But
That makes me
during
feel
my
really
day,
good, actually, knowing that you still feel that way, because I still feel that way, and I kind of beat myself up about it, but that
no,
feels good. I'm
Sarah,
glad you said that.
I don't know. I think everybody always questions themselves once in a while, and is this really what I want to do? You know,
Right.
it's wonderful if someone knows up front, hey, I want to do this. I want to be this, and can follow through and be successful at it. But
Right.
I think there are very few people that know right up front
Mhm.
what they want to do. And a lot of people find themselves in a job that they've lived with their entire life and not been happy doing it.
Right.
You know,
That's so
you
much of your
fall
life
into a
spent.
routine. Um, when I was young, I was the first one in my family to ever even graduate from high school, let alone go to college. And probably the only reason I did that is because a lot of my good friends we didn't know what else to do. So we went to school.
Right.
And I fell into an elementary education program that I thought was going to be what I wanted to do. And it was for a while. But then after teaching school for a while, I thought, well, I took time off to have my children. And I thought, oh, I want to deal with adults for a while. I'd been teaching elementary school and then raising my children who were little. And then all of a sudden I thought, I'd like to deal with adult
Right.
conversation for a while.
Right.
Well, that that was a good dream, but sometimes adults act more like children than children
Right.
do. And
Right.
and that's disappointing because you know children are going to act like children, but when adults act like children, you think, oh no, that
You're like,
wasn't
that's a
right.
choice. You're
Yeah,
choosing to act like that. A
yeah,
kid is not choosing. They don't have the emotional regulation skills to act any differently. You, on the other hand, this
right,
is a
right.
choice.
But anyway, I just kind of went along with the flow when I chose my profession, Sarah. So it was, and I taught for a while, and then I got into dealing with adults, and um, my sister got me involved in a medical facility that she was working at as a receptionist, and I went part time, and then that kind of flowed into a full time position with managerial positions and a little more responsibility. And I flopped back and forth. I never went back to education, but I took lesser jobs and more important jobs. And my family was growing. And thankfully, I had a husband that was very supportive of, hey, you do what you want to do,
Aw,
you know. So
that's
I
awesome.
don't know that I really chose a profession. It was kind of something I evolved into.
I like that a lot. Like, I so relate to that. Because I
Well,
really don't know. Like, I've
different
just,
opportunities to come up,
right.
and sometimes you don't know that it's there, and
Yeah.
it faces you and think, well, maybe, and it works out fine,
So, did you get your
or not.
bachelor's degree?
Pardon me.
What degree did you get in school?
I got my bachelor's. I graduated from high school and then went to the University of Utah. I got my bachelor's degree in 4 years, and I was always kind of interested in science, but I never really pursued anything along
Mm,
that line. So,
yeah, that
however,
sounds
I'll
kind
tell
of
you, things
stressful.
change. When I was in high school, they had these career days, where they'd have people come from different areas and talk to you about their careers and everything. At one point, I think when I was a sophomore or junior in high school, I thought, "Ooh, I'd like to be a lawyer."
Ooh.
Well, that didn't go very far, but
You opened one law book and you're like, actually,
maybe not.
maybe not. Oh my goodness.
Oh dear, honey.
So did you go to school like right out of like high school?
I did. I
Okay.
did.
Did you have a
Graduated in.
scholarship or did you have to pay out of
I did
pocket?
not. I did not.
Okay, so
It
you
was.
had to pay out of pocket.
I did. I paid out of pocket.
Do you remember how
But
much it costs?
oh, Sarah, no, but it wasn't very much. I'll tell you, it was probably. Oh, I hate to even venture a guess. This has been so many years ago,
You're like,
but it couldn't
I've
have
been
been much,
four
or I wouldn't
people
have been
since
able to
then.
go.
Right.
I worked full time. I worked as a checker at a grocery store, and I put myself through school. I lived at home with my parents, which saved me an awful lot of
Oh,
money.
for sure.
But Sarah, I don't think it was probably more than $200 or $300 a quarter, maybe $500 a quarter, plus your books or whatever. But living at home and everything, working full time and living at home and having the support of my parents in that way, they couldn't support with my tuition or anything, but it worked out fine.
Right.
And
You don't need the monetary thing if you can save money
right,
on other things. Like the money can come, you know? Like you're
right,
making it as long
right.
as you're not spending it as soon as you're making it. That's really what it comes
Yep,
down to.
yep. And I was always very frugal.
Yeah.
I I was never extravagant in my spending or anything, and I knew that I needed to save. I needed to, be conservative with
Mhm.
my spending. And so I was never a spendthrift. I knew if I wanted to go to school, if I wanted to do those things, I had to cut back on luxuries. You know,
Right.
didn't have
Right. Live within
luxuries.
your means and
Yep, yep.
yeah.
That was for darn sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's
So,
cool. Well, the last question that I have for you is I guess, how was it to be in a long-term relationship?
oh, Sarah, it was wonderful. It didn't last nearly long enough.
Right.
Um, I was married for 42 years, and
Wow.
then Grandpa got sick, and um, we didn't know for a long time what the problem was. But living a long time relationship, Sarah, first of all, you learn to communicate. Either that or it doesn't last.
I was gonna say, you have no choice. Like,
Right,
you either
right.
communicate or you get
Or,
divorced.
or, or you don't.
Yeah.
And you learn to live with somebody else's idiosyncrasies.
Mhm.
You learn to accept their needs, their wants, their expectations.
Mhm.
You don't have, after you've been together for a long time, you really learn to know what the other person is thinking or feeling. And if you want it to work, you learn how to back off a little bit
Mhm.
or when to be forward.
Right.
You just kind of learn to know the other person. I think sometimes, um, well, divorce was not. Well, first of all, marriage was the thing to do,
Right.
uh, and divorce was not the thing to do back when I was growing up.
Mhm.
My mother and dad were in a long term relationship. Uh, Jack's mom and dad were in a long term relationship. Most of my friends, I don't know that I ever knew. I don't think any of my close friends' parents had ever been divorced
Wow.
or separated. So it was kind of expected to go on
Right.
with that
You
feeling,
get married and you stick it out.
and
And
it was
for better or
supposed to be
worse.
forever.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so you worked at it a little longer. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I think that there are some relationships that people have stayed in that they should not have.
Right. Like, I'm so glad that
Um,
my parents got divorced.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
that
that should have happened.
Sarah, there there are relationships that were not meant to be, and staying together for the children's sake.
The
I mean, I've
children are
known.
not winning.
Well, not only that, but the children are not stupid. I mean, they
Right.
know if it's a
Right.
good relationship or a bad relationship.
Exactly.
But I do think that in a divorce, it isn't the couple that suffers, Sarah. If there are children involved, I think it's the children that suffer more than anything
I
because they're innocent bystanders and they don't know where their loyalties lie,
Right.
and children expect to be protected.
Yes.
And sometimes they're not in
Right.
a a non-lasting relationship.
No,
But
absolutely.
I think it's important to just, this sounds like such a cliche, but communication. You know,
Yeah.
if you don't talk to people, if you don't let people know how you're feeling, how are they supposed to know?
Right.
You
No,
can't just say,
exactly.
"Oh, well, they're supposed to." You know,
Right. That
doesn't
doesn't
work that
work.
way.
Yeah.
No, it
No.
really doesn't. So,
No, I totally agree with you on what you said about divorce. Because the other thing is that, for the most part, every adult has had at least a breakup before that, right?
right,
Like, they've gone
right. One
through
or
a
two, or
heartbreak.
possibly more. Yeah,
Right. And so it's like, it's easier to heal from something that you've been through before. But like you
correct.
said, like as a kid, like as a child of divorce, there was so much uncertainty and
Well, and
it
so many
didn't feel
times
safe.
children wonder if it's their fault. You know, it's
Right.
never the children's fault.
No.
Believe me,
No.
it's never the children's fault.
Yeah.
And they're just collateral damage
No,
sometimes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And some people get married for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be one of those ladies that never gets married. Or if you've got a lot of self self worth and everything, you don't feel like you need somebody else to fulfill you.
Right.
But that's from a woman's perspective, and sometimes men feel like they need somebody to take care of them. Oh hell, I can't take care of myself. I need somebody. That's not a good reason to get married.
No, it is not. It is not. I
Yeah,
also don't
yeah.
think that it's a good idea to get married because someone got knocked up. Like, I
Because
don't think
what?
because someone got pregnant.
Oh, well, that's true, Sarah. But let me tell you, back in the day,
That
you
was
know,
the thing to do.
now it's much more acceptable.
Right.
I mean, things have evolved. Things have changed so much over the years, honey. In fact, I think back now, and your grandma, who used to be an uptight, uh, oh, little old lady that thought that, oh yeah, this is right and that's wrong. There really is no right and wrong anymore. You have to, you have to accept. You have to be accepting. You can't be judgmental.
Right.
There, there are worse things than divorce.
Mhm.
There are worse things than being a single parent.
Right.
There are worse things than being alone.
Right.
You've got to learn to be accepting of yourself and learn to take care of yourself and be independent.
Right. Right.
Even though I had grandpa for a number of years, I didn't realize until after he was gone that I was still very dependent upon him.
Mhm.
And you need to realize that you can't always expect somebody else to be there to take care of you. You've got
Right.
to learn to take care of yourself and take care of, if you find yourself being pregnant, don't expect somebody else to be able to take care of you. Accept the responsibility and deal with it. You
Right.
know.
Right.
And
No,
it
absolutely.
isn't a good reason to get married. Sometimes
No.
it works out well, other times it doesn't.
Right. I think that it is I think it's important for a child to be able to be raised in a healthy, I guess,
Loving
in a
relationship.
relationship where the parents actually have like genuine care for each other, right? Like they
Correct.
care to not hurt each other's feelings. They care to
Right.
mend an argument. They care to, you know, like take little
And there's
time
no
to
such
show
thing as
it.
perfect. There's
Right.
no such thing as
Right.
perfect. But
Right.
you've got to try to work things out and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
realize you put yourself in this position. Nobody else put you in it.
Right. Right. And you have people depending on you to figure it out.
Right.
When you have kids
Right.
involved in it, it's like
Yep.
you might be
Yep.
caught up in your feelings right now, but like let's just take a step back and
Yep.
realize that there's
And
humans that
look
are
at what it's
watching.
doing to somebody else.
Right.
I mean,
Right. Yeah.
this is something that doesn't just impact my life and your life. it impacts multiple lives around us.
Right.
Um,
And more
our
than you would
children, our
know.
parents, our siblings,
Right. Well,
so
and I saw this statistic the other day. I haven't done any like research on it, so I don't know anything about how logistic or
how true it
how
is.
much.
Or,
Yeah. But it said that like if you are going to be raised by a single parent, like you're better off being raised by your father, which obviously is not a blanket statement, but
no,
like
no,
being raised by a paternal figure, being raised with like I think that women are very neurotic for a good reason because they have to be mothers. You have to
you're
care
right.
so deeply to actually keep this thing alive that has been depriving you of sleep and sanity. Like there's this like it's built into women for a reason, but it can
Yeah,
also make it so that you get caught up in your shit and you hyper focus on the bad things, and you kind of need that like masculine like paternal presence to kind of like make everything balanced,
yeah.
to balance out the like neuroticism almost. I think it's so
You know,
important to have both in the household because I definitely feel like I lacked that through my parents' divorce. Just like
oh,
both, you know.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, Sarah. I think that men statistically are probably a little more stable financially. I mean, this isn't, this goes back a ways too because I think it's becoming more prevalent. Women are coming up in the world,
Right, right.
they've got
Things are changing.
stability.
Yeah.
They've got careers that are able to sustain a family and one big
Mhm.
mother. But um, the majority of women are more nurturing, are a little more loving, and maybe able to take care of the children's emotional needs a little more.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know that's not true with everyone. The husbands or the fathers are a little more stable financially and able to take care of things. And in those instances, they might be able to take care, get daycare and everything for their
Right.
children.
Right.
That statistically, I think women have a little more um, pull emotionally,
Right. Right.
but that isn't always true because I know of instances um, where when children get hurt, it's usually mommy, mommy, mommy.
Right.
But I've known a few instances where it's the first word out of the kid's mouth is daddy because they know they're the nurturing person
Right.
in the
Right.
family.
No, for
And
sure.
and I'm sure that you're aware of that too.
Oh yeah. No, my dad was absolutely both. He was
Yeah,
very like stable and structured, but also like
nurturing.
nurturing, like caring, like physically and emotionally there as a kid. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know that anytime I had a bad dream or something, I'd be like, Dad.
It was daddy.
Yes, yes. It was like I need to go and be comforted. But I also, like I said, like maybe I'm just biased based on my experience. But like as a female, I know in myself that I am more neurotic than my husband. Like I know that as a fact. And I know that my
Oh,
my mood changes more often,
oh,
which
I think that's a woman's built-in
oh,
thing,
yeah.
Sarah. I
Yeah.
really do.
Apparently we change like every week. Like during the different cycles of like the menstrual
Yeah,
cycle. And
yeah.
then Jason pointed something out when I was doing this interview with him where he said that from observing his wife, he thinks that women change every 5 years and men change every 10 years. So like a woman will
Oh,
like go and like change her hair and her wardrobe and like maybe even
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
friends, or, you know, like she needs some kind of like evolution more often. And I think that's just
Yeah.
so true, you know, like, and I think that that is what would make like a father household be at least more stable, because they're worried
Yeah.
about the like, have you gotten this done? Has this been done? Has this been done? And the mom's like, please, for the love of God, don't scream one more time. Like, I'm at the like, I can't hear anything else from you right now.
If I hear that screech one more time, I'm going to
Right.
kill you.
Right. Like, I need a mommy break right now. But it's because we're nurturing, and you like absorb the feelings of the people around you, which is
Right.
mandatory for being you know, a mother. Like, you have to
Yeah.
care about this thing or you would kill it. Like,
Yeah.
that's just how it is.
Oh, Sarah. Well, honey, it would be nice if things were in the real life the way we picture that they should be, but
Right. That's
unfortunately
just
they're
not how the
not.
world, that's not how it works, because we all have a different picture.
Oh, and every personality. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just think of all of the different things you picked up from your mom and dad,
Right.
and
Right.
and I picked up from mine, and they picked up
Mm-hmm.
from theirs, and
Yeah.
oh, it's just it's just an ongoing thing and evolution, and hopefully things will be good.
Right.
Sometimes they're not, but we just we have to learn to live with
The
what we've
hand we're
got,
dealt.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh,
What,
honey.
how old were you when you and grandpa got together?
I was 23 when we got married.
Okay.
Grandpa was 27 or 26. We met up at the University of Utah, and probably a couple of years before that, we dated for a while. We were engaged once and broke up,
Oh, wow.
and then got back together again probably 3 or 4 months later.
Do you remember why you broke
Uh,
up the first time?
well, I think so. I think it was because at that time, you know, women go through these emotional stages, and I'm sure men do too, but all of my friends, we all got, well, my high school friends, there were a few of them that got married right out of high school.
Oh,
And and then I didn't. I went on to the university and everything, and had graduated. Well, I met grandpa up at the U, and we got engaged, and there was a period of time there where all of my friends were getting married. You know, they
mm-hmm.
had their dates, their wedding date set and everything. And grandpa and I were talking about it one night, and I had my ring, and my good friends were, and I said, "Do you think we ought to think about, you know, setting a wedding date or whatever?" And he kind of hesitated a little bit, and I just looked at him and I said, "Jack, I don't think you're ready to get married." And I took my ring off and handed it back to him.
Wow.
And then I didn't see him for, I don't know, three. He didn't call. I didn't call him or anything. And then he had a friend that managed a grocery store not too far from where I was working. I had graduated from college, but I didn't start teaching right away. I was working at a doctor's office, and I ran into him at the grocery store.
Weird.
And he he came over to me, and we talked for a while, and he said, "Would it be okay if I called you?" And I said, "Sure." And
Aw.
he called me that night, and it just blossomed from there again,
The
and
rest is history.
the rest is
He's like, I
history.
wasn't ready before, but I am
But
now.
I guess I am now. Well,
Aw. What
I
if
don't know if he was or not, but it happened.
you're like, well,
I'm not sure how many men are really ready. I think women are
right.
ready more before, before men, but who knows? There are
Right.
some men that can hardly wait to get married, and other
Right.
women that say, yeah,
Right.
but
No, absolutely. That's crazy. What are the chances that you guys just see each other again? I mean,
Well,
nowadays you can go out of your way to go and connect with somebody just by looking up their name, but like then you actually had to just
well,
stumble upon somebody.
I knew where his friend worked, and I knew that, so I mean, it wasn't just a chance happening.
Right.
I knew where his friend worked, and that's where the doctor that I worked for was a coffeeholic, and I had to go get coffee for him. I mean, we made it there in the office and everything, but I knew that his friend worked there, and I thought eventually I'd probably see him,
Aw, you
and
were
I
just
did.
putting it out there. Just
Yeah,
go with the
yeah,
flow. That's
right.
awesome.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, that's fine too.
And you
Um,
waited a little bit to have kids, right?
no,
No.
no. After we got married, Sarah. Well, in fact, before we got married, this was one of those situations where we did have sex before, and and I did find back in the day birth control. I mean, we're talking 60 years ago.
Right, right.
Birth control was not that prevalent or anything, and we were intimate, and I did get pregnant, and we did get married immediately. So
You're like, we had to do it because that's what you
we just
do.
had to do it. It was I was going to say my dad would have taken a shotgun to him, but no, that wasn't true. We got married. We were married for 2 or 3 months before we ever told anybody that I was expecting a baby, and it all worked out well, Sarah. I can't say that I'm. If it had happened differently, that would have been fine, but it was
Right.
okay the way it happened
Right.
because we had 42 good years together, and I wish we'd had 42 more, but it didn't
Right.
happen.
If
So,
only. You know,
right.
I think about it a lot, how much I wish that I could have gotten to know Grandpa a little bit
Oh,
more. Because I really,
Sarah,
my,
that's one of the things that I Grand St. George was Grandpa's dream. He took care of his parents for a long time. He was the one. He was the only son, but he had two older sisters that moved to California after they got married, and I think Grandpa kind of felt a responsibility to stick around, and
mm,
you know, and I don't know that he felt like it was an obligation, but it was just something that we
right.
did.
You stay
And
close to
then
family.
after he retired, he just really felt like he wanted to go to warmer climate, and that's what brought us down,
Mm,
and it worked out. It worked out better for me than it did him. It
I
was
was
his
gonna
dream,
say,
and
he
then
didn't
he
even
got
get a
sick,
good
and I
year, did he? Before he got
um
sick?
well, Sarah, hindsight is 2020, and I think Grandpa wasn't doing real well when we moved down here,
Mm,
but didn't realize it, and he wanted to play golf, and then when he wasn't playing golf, I asked him about it, and he said, "Merle, I just don't feel right. Every time I bend over the ball, I feel like I'm going to fall." And that was the beginning of it. And then his
right.
eyesight started. He started having some problems, and he kept saying, "If I could just get this glass prescription right, I know I'd be fine."
But they
But
don't make one.
it
They
was
don't
just
make
a
it.
neurological thing where
Yeah.
the synapses between what his brain knew that the muscles needed to do,
Mm,
there was a break there in that connection,
wow.
So he eventually died from something called PSP, and and nobody knew what it was for a long time, but
I mean,
we
even
finally
now,
got the
there's not a
diagnosis
lot of
up at the university.
information about it.
No, there really isn't, and we ended up at the University of Utah because the doctors down here I mean, it was just we went for MRIs, and we went to neurologists, and we went to I mean,
Yeah.
it just wasn't diagnosed. But when we finally went up to the university, I mean, we got a diagnosis immediately, and they said,
Wow.
They said, we've got a diagnosis, but you're not going to like
It's
it.
not a
There's
good
no cure.
one. Yeah.
Not a cure for it.
Right. There's
So.
nothing you can
And
do.
then he went pretty fast after that, Sarah. I think
Yeah.
he just realized, I'm not going to be here for a long time, and there's no sense in prolonging the agony. I don't know if people have choices on that or not.
Right.
But I think Grandpa just kind of said,
I kind of do. I think Chris chose to live. Dad's friend Chris.
I do too.
Like
I do too,
that was
Sarah.
a choice. That was pure willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little bit of the universe or God or whatever you want to call it.
And he had a very young family too,
Right.
And well, I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but
I think it could. I think it definitely could. I mean, with Grandpa, he had a good life with you and with his, raising his kids.
He did.
And so I
Sarah,
think at that age,
I remember I'd forgotten how young you were when Grandpa died.
I was so young, Grandma. I was so
young. I know,
young.
and I can remember you being down here and us being over at the swimming pool and pointing out a man in the hot tub and asking you who that reminded you of. And I thought, Marlene, Sarah doesn't even remember Grandpa that much.
No, that straight up looked like Grandpa.
And I thought afterwards, oh my goodness, we left our grandchildren way too soon.
Right.
I wish we had stayed longer so we could have enjoyed our grandchildren more.
That's what I tried telling Dad and Kat. That's what I tried telling them. But they didn't listen. They're just going to have to learn it.
And I don't know, well, I don't know what prompted that, but Sarah, different strokes for different folks. I mean, what works for one doesn't work for another. And,
right.
And I can't say that I think that we've made a big mistake.
Right.
Because for myself being right now, like I told you earlier, I've got long-lasting friends down here that are my age, but my friends in Salt Lake are all gone.
Right, exactly.
And my family, most of my family, except you and
right.
T, you're not there anymore, but you keep in touch.
Yes.
We have to keep in touch no matter where we are.
We do.
Yeah. I know, honey.
I'm glad that we
Sarah,
at least can call.
how much I love you.
I love you, Grandma. I'm so glad that I have you in my life.
And I'm so glad that I've got you, Sarah. We will keep in touch. And when you decide you're going to come down here and see, first of all, Grandma.
Yes.
And then, of course, your dad.
Yes.
Your dad and Catherine afterwards.
No, absolutely. Honey. I want to make it out there soon.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so too. I want to show Tom around.
All right, my dear. All right. I love you, Sarah.
I love you, Grandma. Thank you for doing this with me.
Oh, I'm more than happy to do it. I hope it works out okay.
Yes.
You tell Tom hi. You tell T hi when you see him for me.
I will.
And I will just talk to you later, honey.
Sounds good, Grandma. I love you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Mental Odyssey is a Dream and Do podcast, produced and edited by yours truly. The music is owned by Chill Hop, and this song is Velocities by Sleepy Fish. Go check them out. Thanks for being here.